Hamilton's Monaco second place looked like a Ferrari breakthrough. Then the rulebook nearly swallowed it. A 7-time world champion crossed the line in P2, moved into second in the championship, and gave Ferrari hope that Kimi Antonelli could still be chased. But behind the podium, everything was on fire. Hamilton was hit with a 5-second pit lane penalty. Then he was investigated for a safety car gap infringement. Leclerc crashed out at home. 5 different drivers were caught by the same Monaco pit lane speed trap. And Hamilton said he was shocked because the limiter was on, the braking felt normal, and the line was the same one drivers had used for years. So this is not just a Ferrari penalty story. This is a question that could change Monaco forever. Was Hamilton really at fault, or did the pit entry line, the braking zone, and the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile sensors create a trap no driver could see coming? Because Hamilton survived this one. But if Ferrari are serious about fighting Mercedes, the next penalty cannot be survived. The next one could end their championship dream. Subscribe to the channel. Monaco did not give Ferrari a clean celebration. It gave them a podium wrapped in suspicion. Because when Lewis Hamilton finished second, the result looked massive. Ferrari had survived the most chaotic race of the season. Hamilton had put himself into second place in the championship. And for the first time, it felt like he might be the only driver close enough to turn Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes dominance into a real fight. But Monaco never gives Ferrari anything without taking something back. And this time, what it took was certainty. Hamilton's P2 was not simply earned on the road. It had to survive the rulebook. First came the 5-second penalty for pit lane speeding. Then came the safety car investigation for allegedly leaving too large a gap to the car ahead. Then came Leclerc's crash, another red flag, and a final sprint where Ferrari had everything to lose. That is why this result felt different. Hamilton crossed the line second, but for a while, the real finish line was inside the steward's room. And that is exactly the kind of weekend Ferrari cannot afford if they are serious about chasing Mercedes. The first warning came before the race even began. Hamilton had already been uneasy about the Ferrari SF26 in qualifying. The car had looked strong earlier in the weekend, but when qualifying arrived, he said it felt drastically different. He said it had taken a step back, despite Ferrari making very few setup changes. That sounds like a small detail. At Monaco, it is not small at all, because Monaco is not a circuit where a driver can hide doubt. The walls are too close. The corners are too narrow. The braking zones are too precise. Every lap requires total belief that the car will do exactly what the driver expects. A normal circuit gives you space to correct a mistake. Monaco gives you a barrier. So when Hamilton felt the car change underneath him, Ferrari already had a problem. Not a penalty problem yet. Not an investigation problem yet. But a confidence problem. And confidence is the first thing a driver needs in Monaco. Still, Hamilton delivered. He qualified third, his best Monaco qualifying result since 2019. That should have been the headline. A strong Ferrari result, a veteran champion putting himself near the front, a chance to turn track position into a podium. But underneath the qualifying result, the first question was already open. Why did the car feel different? That question matters because Ferrari's weekend soon became full of moments where the team and driver were forced to react instead of control. And the biggest reaction came in the pit lane. Hamilton entered the pits during the race and was hit with a 5-second penalty for exceeding Monaco's strict 60 km/h pit lane speed limit. On paper, it sounds simple. The speed limit exists. The timing system measures the car. If the car is too fast, the driver gets punished. But Monaco made it much more complicated, because Hamilton was not alone. George Russell was caught. Pierre Gasly was caught twice. Oscar Piastri was caught. Franco Colapinto was caught. 5 drivers from different teams were penalized for the same kind of pit lane speeding issue. That is where this stops looking like one driver making one mistake. It starts looking like a trap, and Hamilton knew it. His reaction was not calm acceptance. He said he was shocked. He said he did not believe he had been speeding. He said the pit lane limiter was on immediately. He said he had driven that pit lane for years and had used the same line that drivers had always taken. Those comments matter because Hamilton was not claiming the pit lane speed limit should not exist. He was not saying drivers should be allowed to rush past mechanics. He was not dismissing safety. He was questioning where and how the rule was being measured. That is the heart of the controversy, because Monaco's pit entry is unusual. Drivers naturally approach the pit lane by cutting toward the white line. That has been part of the rhythm of the circuit for years. But the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile detection point measures speed at that specific line, and that means the car can be caught while it is still in the braking transition before the driver feels fully inside the pit lane. That is why the braking controversy exploded. Not because Ferrari were found with illegal brakes, not because Hamilton had a secret braking device, but because the moment of braking, the location of the line, and the sensor measurement all collided in a way that made the penalty feel questionable. Hamilton believed he had done the normal thing. The system said he had broken the rule. And in modern Formula One, the system wins. That is a difficult reality for drivers. A driver feels the car. He feels when the limiter engages. He feels the braking point. He knows the line he has taken for years. But the sensor does not care about experience. It does not care about habit. It does not care whether the driver feels the transition into the pit lane has already begun or not. It measures a point, and if the number is wrong at that point, the penalty arrives. That is why 5 penalties in one race are so important. One driver can misjudge a braking point. 5 drivers suggest the measurement point may not match the way the pit entry naturally works. And when that happens, Formula One has to ask whether the rule is clear enough. Strict rules are necessary. Unclear rules are dangerous, because if a driver knows exactly where the limit is judged, he can adapt. He can brake earlier. He can take a different line. He can build the risk into his approach. But if the penalty feels like it appears from an invisible line inside a familiar habit, then frustration becomes inevitable. That is what Hamilton was reacting to. And his frustration carried extra weight because the penalty was not happening in a meaningless race. It was happening while he was fighting for a Monaco podium in a Ferrari during a championship chase where every point mattered. The 5-second penalty meant Hamilton's second place was suddenly under pressure. Ferrari now had to think differently. The gap behind mattered more. Every safety car mattered more. Every restart mattered more. Every lap of margin became part of a hidden calculation. This is how a small penalty becomes a race-long threat. It does not always destroy the result immediately. It poisons the rest of the race. And Monaco was about to become even more poisonous. Lance Stroll crashed late in the race, bringing out the safety car. Under normal circumstances, a safety car slows everything down and gives the race a moment to breathe. But at Monaco, it created another problem for Hamilton. He was investigated for allegedly leaving more than 10 car lengths to the car ahead while running behind the safety car. That may sound minor. It was not, because Hamilton was in second place. He had already received 1 penalty. Another penalty could have destroyed the podium completely. It could have dropped him behind rivals. It could have taken Ferrari's strongest result of the day and turned it into another painful Monaco. What if? And the timing made it even more dramatic. The race was stopped by a red flag. The cars waited. The teams waited. The stewards reviewed the evidence. Hamilton's second place existed, but it did not feel secure. That is one of the strangest feelings in racing. The driver has already done the laps, but the result is still being decided somewhere else. Hamilton could not defend his position with speed in that moment. He cannot brake later. He cannot overtake. He cannot build a gap. He had to wait for the data, the video, the telemetry, the radio messages, and the steward's interpretation. For Ferrari, the tension must have been brutal. They had 1 car in the fight and 1 car heading toward disaster. Charles Leclerc's race ended in the barriers, another painful Monaco chapter for the home driver. And that crash did more than end his race. It intensified the pressure on Hamilton because suddenly Ferrari's entire meaningful result depended on 1 car, 1 penalty, and 1 steward decision. That is not control. That is survival. The stewards eventually cleared Hamilton. No further action. Those words saved the podium. The decision was important because the stewards recognized context. Drivers behind the safety car sometimes need space to prepare tires and power units for the restart. There was precedent from Canada the previous year where race control had allowed a certain degree of tolerance in similar situations. That tolerance protected Hamilton. But Ferrari should not take too much comfort from it, because the fact that Hamilton needed that tolerance at all is the warning. His podium survived because 1 investigation ended in his favor. But championship campaigns cannot depend on investigations ending kindly. They cannot depend on every ambiguous call going the right way. They cannot depend on surviving penalties by just enough. Mercedes are not winning that way. Antonelli is not building his championship lead through chaos. That is the contrast Ferrari must face. Kimi Antonelli won Monaco. Again, his 5th consecutive victory. Another step in a season that is starting to look like Mercedes have mastered the new era faster than everyone else. Hamilton finished second, 6.271 seconds behind him. That was strong. It moved Hamilton into second in the championship with 90 points, just ahead of George Russell on 88. But Antonelli had 156 points. That is the number Ferrari cannot ignore. 66 points ahead. Hamilton's second place was valuable, but it was still second place. And when the driver ahead keeps winning, second place with drama is not enough. That is the championship problem hiding inside the Monaco penalty drama. Ferrari did not lose the podium, but they lost the clean weekend. And clean weekends are how championships are built. A team can survive chaos once. A driver like Hamilton can absorb pressure and still bring the car home. But if Ferrari repeatedly turns strong results into regulatory battles, Mercedes will keep extending the gap. Because every investigation drains focus. Every penalty changes strategy. Every communication issue creates risk. Every crash removes a second car from the points fight. Every messy weekend gives Antonelli more room. That is why the pit lane controversy matters so much. It is not just about one 5-second penalty. It is about the need for Ferrari to understand every detail that can cost points. If Monaco's pit entry is creating confusion, Ferrari must adapt faster than anyone else. Whether the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile reviews the sensor location or not, Ferrari cannot let Hamilton get caught there again. The team has to treat it as both a rule issue and an execution issue. Because even if Hamilton believes the line was unfair, the penalty still counted. That is the brutal truth. In Formula One, being morally frustrated does not remove 5 seconds. Ferrari must protect him from that situation next time. That may mean earlier limiter engagement, a different entry line, more specific driver briefing, extra practice references, better modeling of the sensor point. Whatever the answer, it has to be found before another race turns the same detail into a bigger loss.